Hey, this is Warren Redlick. We're going to do a deep dive into this article where Jeff Bezos' newspaper, the Washington Post, attacks Elon Musk. Not the first time. The article is written by Faiz Siddiqui. We're going to dive into Mr. Siddiqui. We're going to dive into this article in depth. This absolute trashing of Tesla FSD. Not a new thing for the Washington Post. Not a new thing for Faiz Siddiqui. Are you ready? Let's go. Before we dive in more, check out the What's Outside the Simulation t-shirt at elonbits.com.
And you get to ask her one question. What would that question be?
What's outside the simulation?
Lots of t-shirts and other merch at elonbits.com. They're a little slow, but it's good stuff. Faiz Siddiqui is a journalist who is a San Francisco-based technology reporter covering Tesla, Twitter, and Uber. Twitter, Tesla, and Uber. So this guy's job is to cover Elon and Uber. We'll see how much he covers Uber. His job is to cover Twitter and Tesla for the Washington Post. Jeff Bezos has hired this guy to cover Elon. That's basically it. That's his job. And what do his articles look like? So here's the latest one, how Elon Musk knocked Tesla's full self-driving off course. Another one, same day, Tesla's self-driving struggles 6 years after first promises. Another negative article, Elon grills former Twitter worker online, accuses him not working. At Musk's brittle Twitter, tweaks trigger massive outages. Elon Musk struggles to generate excitement at Tesla. Tesla issues recall of cars. Elon reinvents Twitter for the benefit of a power user himself. One of Tesla's biggest critics is funding a Super Bowl ad against it. Twitter faces... Where's the positive coverage? Every article is negative. Every article is critical. There's nothing good has happened at Tesla. Nothing good has happened at Twitter in the time this guy has been covering Elon and Tesla and Twitter. We're going through article after article after article where the headline is negative. Here's an article about the federal trial. At least this one says he's found not liable. Musk meets with GOP tech critics and Biden aides. Okay, so he's lobbying. Stands by funding secured treatment. Musk defending downplays impact of tweets. Musk security frauds trial begins. Twitter temporarily bans account for DC area bus system without explanation. It's just like a tiny little thing, and it gets a massive article. Twitter brings Elon Musk's genius reputation crashing down to earth. Here's who helped Elon Musk buy Twitter. No word from Musk. Where is the positive side of the story? Does this guy have anything positive to say? Has he ever written a positive article? Something favorable. Musk's suspension of journalists on Twitter. Elon's role questioned. Musk bans Twitter account tracking his jet. Look, finally an Uber article, but the Uber article appear on Twitter pages of white nationalists restored by Musk. Remember, he's supposed to cover Twitter, Tesla, and Uber. This is the only mention of Uber so far. Where's the Uber coverage? Elon Musk's Twitter files ignite divisions but haven't changed minds. Elon says Apple threatened to remove Twitter from App Store. Musk's free speech agenda dismantles safety. It's free speech in quotes, right? He wasn't really pursuing free speech. He had to put that in quotes. Elon Musk responds Trump tweet. Where is the positive story? Where's Uber coverage? Twitter limps on, gutted by Musk's layoffs. Hundreds said to have opted to leave Twitter over ultimatum. I'm still looking for an Uber article. Biden says Elon Musk's foreign connections are being worth being looked at. How about looking at Biden's foreign connections? Musk seeks to reassure advertisers. Musk recommends voting GOP. Again, nothing about Uber, no positive story. There is not a single positive story. Did he cover the quarterly report when Tesla reported reasonably good numbers for Q4? Did he cover Investor Day? This is a guy who covers Tesla. Where's the coverage of Investor Day? How did you miss Investor Day? How did you miss the Q4 report? How are you covering Tesla? We had good news on Investor Day. We had good news on Q4. Where's the good news coverage? This is a guy who is paid by Jeff Bezos to constantly trash Elon Musk in one of the largest newspapers in America. Just, it's endless. I'm not even going to bother going on. So that's the background. That's the background. This is all negative coverage, just constantly trashing Elon on behalf of Jeff Bezos. I think Jeff Bezos should be absolutely ashamed that he is paying someone. He's publicly took over the Washington Post and is publicly paying someone to trash Elon Musk on a regular basis. Just, once a week, once every other week, this guy writes an article trashing Elon in some way. This is absolutely shameful. But let's dive into the article itself. Long before he'd become a chief twit of Twitter, Elon Musk had a different obsession, making Teslas drive themselves. The technology was expensive, and 2 years ago, he became determined to bring down the cost. He zeroed in on a target, the car radar sensors. The removal of radar was not a cost decision. This is not something that Elon did on his own. This is something the team decided. The radar is not adding value. The radar is actually diminishing the quality of the driving experience. I have been driving FSD beta since when they were using radar, and after they stopped using radar. The car drives better now than it did before when it was using radar. This is an absolute idiocy comment. This guy, he's making it like this was a cost. Now it is a cost saving, right? It is a cost saving, but the radar does not add value. And what does he say? Some Tesla engineers were aghast, said former employees with knowledge of his reaction. Speaking on the condition of anonymity for fear of retribution, they contacted a trusted former executive for Elon for advice on how to talk Musk out of it. Look, Karpathy's on board with this. Ashok Ellaswamy's on board with this.
Basically, you would think that these sensors are an asset to you.
Yeah.
But if you fully consider the entire product in its entirety, these sensors are actually potentially a liability.
Without radar, Teslas would be susceptible to basic perception errors if the cameras were obscured by raindrops or even bright sunlight, problems that could lead to crashes. They don't crash. The radar is a noisy signal. They've addressed this problem.
So have to incorporate them, fuse them into the system in some way. And so it actually bloats a lot of it. And I think Elon is really good at simplify. Best part is no part. And he always tries to throw away things that are not essential because he understands the entropy in organizations and an approach. They contribute noise and entropy into everything.
They've addressed this question. The problem with radar, at least the radar that's in my Model 3, the radar that's in previous generation cars, that's in my Model X, that radar is a noisy signal. And the whole point is, look, I drive my car without radar. When I'm driving a car, I don't use radar. When Faiz Siddiqui, if he knows how to drive, when he drives a car, he doesn't use radar. Humans use eyes, and we use biological neural nets. And the team determined, not just Elon, we can use digital neural nets in our chips and cameras. Their cameras have a better view of the road than our eyes do because they have 8 cameras looking around the car instead of just 2. And the cameras look in different directions. These 2 look in the same direction all the time. The company's view is that we can do this without using radar. Now, there's some reports there may be high definition radar coming in hardware 4. That's a different kind of radar. But this guy demonstrates zero understanding of the decision making. It's like he's never watched Andrej Karpathy talk. He's never watched Ashok Ellaswamy talk. He talks to dissatisfied former employees. He claims some Tesla engineers were guests said he's speaking to former employees. He's not speaking to active Tesla engineers. He's speaking to former employees. Who are these former employees? Speaking on condition of anonymity for fear of retribution. If you're a former employee, what's the retribution? This makes no sense. Musk was unconvinced and overruled his engineers. No, the engineers were on board. Karpathy was on board. Ellaswamy was on board. The autopilot team was on board. They've done presentations on Tesla's autopilot, on FSD. They had AI Day. They had AI Day 2. They had Autonomy Day. There is a team that is making these decisions. Elon's a part of it. He takes one view. They may take another. They hash it out and they figure it out. The result, according to interviews with nearly a dozen former employees and test drivers, was an uptick in crashes, near misses, and other embarrassing mistakes by Tesla vehicles suddenly deprived of a critical sensor. No, what happened was the radar was causing false braking, phantom braking. The radar was a noisy signal. It was injecting uncertainty into the car compared to the relative certainty they had with the cameras. And it was impairing the performance of FSD. And removing the radar, was there some period of time where the car had to adjust, where the software had to adjust to not having radar? Sure. This is beta software. This is going to happen. Was there an uptick in crashes? Nothing I've seen. Was there an uptick in near misses? Nothing that I've seen. I was driving the car. I follow FSD beta videos. I have not gotten the sense from the other people who are posting FSD beta videos and from my own experience that removing the radar had any significant impact on crashes, near misses, or other embarrassing mistakes. That is a lie. That is an incompetent person who does not understand the technology, does not bother to try to understand the technology, and just hacks together an article based on nothing. And he goes here. Now, Musk has described the Tesla FSD technology as the difference between Tesla being worth a lot of money and being worth basically zero, but his dream of autonomous cars in roadblocks. So I think Elon's a little bit hyperbole. He said something like that. It's a little bit hyperbole. As long as Tesla's advantage is manufacturing and it manufactures cars better, it manufactures cars in high volume, Tesla is worth a tremendous amount of money. But the value of Tesla with FSD is dramatically higher. And so the idea that Elon's decided to make it work worse because how does this come together? If Elon thinks that the company value is driven by FSD, why would he want to make it work worse rather than better? In recent weeks, Tesla has recalled and suspended the rollout of technology to eligible vehicles. No, actually, as of the date of this article, they did roll out version 11 to some customers. So they didn't suspend the rollout. This is nonsense. Was there a recall? Yeah, there's recalls all the time. That recall, was supposed to be, software would be rolled out by sometime in April. The fix would be rolled out sometime in April, and they're still rolling out the software. So this is false. This is a guy who doesn't understand. He either doesn't understand or he deliberately misrepresents, and we can't know the answer to that. Amid concerns that its cars could disobey the speed limit. Of course the cars can disobey the speed limit. We set it to disobey the speed limit and blow through stop signs. I don't know. I've been driving. I'm not saying it could never blow through a stop sign. I've been driving the car I've done like 30,000 miles. I don't think I've ever had it blow through a stop sign. There was an issue where the cars would do a rolling stop, and that changed a while ago. So I don't think that's true. I don't think this was about blowing through stop signs. There's definitely glitches in the software, and they're working to make it better. It's beta software. This is not new. Customer complaints have been piling up, including a lawsuit filed in federal court claiming that Musk has overstated technology capabilities. Lawsuits are filed all the time. Did a judge rule against them? This is just nonsense. Customer complaints have been, well, there's more cars on the road, so there's going to be more complaints, right? There's a lot more Teslas on the road. There's going to be more complaints. That's just reality. More people have the software. We've gone from 1,000 people having FSD beta to 400,000 people having FSD beta. That's 400 times as many people who could complain. So you would expect there to be more complaints. I don't know who they're complaining to. I don't know where they're getting this from. How is he measuring customer complaints? Regulators and government officials are scrutinizing Tesla's system. That's not new. They've been scrutinizing Tesla's system forever. Are they scrutinizing human driving cars? And its past claims as evidence of safety problems mounts, according to company filings. Evidence of safety problem mounts. Tesla's safety report shows that self-driving cars are getting safer and safer, and the gap between self-driving cars operated in self-driving mode, and cars driven by human drivers, the gap is increasing. They're getting increasingly safer. My car driving itself with me supervising is safer than me driving the car. That is simple reality. That the self-driving software driving a car with a human supervisor is safer than that human driving the car themselves. This is very clear from the data, and he's just making this up. Evidence of safety problems mount. What evidence mounts? In interviews, former employees who worked on Tesla driver assistance software attributed the company's troubles to the rapid pace of development. Rapid pace of development is good. We want rapid development. Cost-cutting measures like Musk's decision to eliminate radar, that wasn't a cost-cutting decision. It was partly a cost-cutting decision. If the radar is not contributing to making the car drive better, then sure, get rid of the radar. They got rid of the ultrasonics too. This guy doesn't even know they got rid of the ultrasonics. He doesn't even realize that's something that annoyed a lot of people. He doesn't even mention it, which strayed from industry practice. What industry practice? The industry practice is to make cars that don't drive themselves. Tesla's practice is to make cars that do drive themselves, and other problems unique to Tesla. They said Musk's erratic leadership style also played a role. Musk's erratic leadership style has built SpaceX into the dominant launch company in the world, Tesla into the most valuable and fastest growing car company in the world, Neuralink developing brain implants that are way beyond anything to be seen, Boring Company tunneling, Musk's erratic, and it built PayPal, it built Zip2. Musk's erratic. if you want to invest in a company that has a normal leader who doesn't have an erratic style, then invest in some other company. If you want to invest in a company where that erratic leadership style is leading to work at a breakneck pace, developing technology, making all this progress, then that's why I'm invested in Tesla. And let's be clear, I'm invested in Tesla. Basically, my portfolio is nearly 100% Tesla, other than some real estate and other assets that I own, like cars, which are both Teslas. A breakneck pace to develop the technology and push it out to the public before it was ready. Beta software is being pushed out to the public before it's ready. Beta software is always pushed out to the public before it's ready. That's the point of it being called beta. And people are warned, hey, it's not ready. You have to supervise it. No one is claiming that Tesla FSD can be driven without being supervised. Everyone at Tesla, everyone who's an FSD beta tester knows and has been told you have to supervise it. Some are worried that even today, the software is not safe to be used on public roads. Well, the safety report from Tesla says that the software being used as it's being used is significantly safer than human-driven cars. And I have seen no evidence from anyone that Tesla cars are less safe than other cars. The evidence seems to be overwhelming that Tesla cars are more safe than other cars. And you've never seen, like, there was a Tesla that drove off a cliff, that a human driver deliberately drove off a cliff, and everyone survived in the car when people thought everyone would die. Did the Washington Post cover how safe Tesla cars are? Strangely, Mr. Siddiqui missed that story, right? You have to keep saying that the cars are unsafe, the cars are unsafe, the cars are unsafe. Tesla cars are the safest cars on the road. I deliberately sold a Volkswagen Passat and gave my Model 3 to my kid so that my kid would be in a much safer car. I made the conscious choice to keep my kid in a much safer car. Rather than my kid was driving a Volkswagen, I was getting the Plaid X. I could have traded in the Model 3. Instead, I traded in the Volkswagen and gave my kid the Model 3 at substantial expense to myself. I would have saved a lot more money if I had kept my kid in that Passat. I want my kid in the safest car possible. That car has FSD beta, actually has a more advanced version than I have in my X. Absolutely, not only do I believe in this, I put my kid behind it. I put myself behind it, I put my kid behind it. The system was only progressing very slowly internally, but the public wanted a product in their hands, said John Bernal, a former test operator who worked in its autopilot. He was fired in 2022 when the company alleged improper use of the technology after he'd posted videos of full self-driving. So this is a disgruntled employee. What do you mean the system was progressing very slowly internally? The system was progressing. Look, there's been tremendous progress in FSD beta. If you go back to the beginning of FSD beta when there's only 1,000 people who had it, it couldn't do roundabouts. There were so many things it couldn't do. There's so much more it can do now. There's so many different areas where FSD drives so much better. You can watch Chuck Cook's videos. You can watch Kim Paquette's videos. You can watch so many other people. Tesla Truth. There's all kinds of people who've been driving FSD beta and it's making mistakes and it's gotten better. And it's pretty consistent now from Chuck and Tesla, who are probably the biggest critics within the community. Chuck is still very positive. Lisa's always been very negative, but both of them are saying they're seeing significant progress in version 11. Elon keeps tweeting, oh, we're almost there, Bernal said. Yeah. We've heard that before. But internally, we're nowhere close. So now we have to work harder and harder and harder. What do you mean we? You don't work there anymore. This guy was a test driver. He's not an engineer this guy is not a, Bernal is a former Tesla test operator who works in its autopilot department. He's not an engineer. He's not engineering the software. He's the guy who drives the car and supervises how it drives. That's it. What did you have to drive more? What does it mean we have to work harder and harder and harder? The team has also bled members in recent months, including senior executives. Look, Tesla has turnover. It's a very demanding workplace. Does Tesla have more turnover than other companies that are comparably situated? This is a very common thing that they'll do, is they'll make this assertion and like, well, how does that compare to other companies in the self-driving space? How does that compare to other highly innovative companies? How does that compare to this, that, or the other thing? You just say it in the abstract. You have nothing to compare it to, and you make it up like it's a big deal. Meanwhile, Musk pulled dozens of Tesla engineers to work with code at Twitter. What's the source for this? According to people familiar with the matter, this is people who are making shit up. According to people familiar with the matter, who spoke on the condition of anonymity for fear and retribution, and documents reviewed by the Washington Post. It's very clear that some of the Tesla engineers, I think it's pretty obvious that some of the Tesla engineers did double time, come over to Tesla to work on code at Twitter. It is very common in Elon's companies that people cross lines. The head of Boring Company was a SpaceX engineer. Tesla engineers help out at SpaceX. SpaceX engineers help out at Tesla. Cybertruck steel is the same steel or similar steel to the steel in Starship. The Starship uses battery packs from Teslas. They use, there's constant crossover between Elon's companies. That is a well-established thing. That is a good thing for all the companies involved. And it's good for the engineers that they get to try different things. They get to expose themselves to different things. Earlier this month, the Tesla failed to announce a big new product on Investor Day. The company stock sank 6%. That's your coverage of Investor Day? That's your coverage of Investor Day. Like, this is the thing. There was so much important stuff that was announced on Investor Day. The company stock goes up and down, left, right, and center all the time. It went up 8% today. Do you think he's going to do an article about how Tesla stock went up 8% today? Of course not. He only writes hit pieces. Musk has defended the company's actions as long-term bets with the prospect of unlocking tremendous value. True. And Tesla has said, and it's not just Elon. Zach Kirkhorn talks about this. Ashok Elaswamy talks about this. Andrei Karpathy has talked about this. It's, they talk about it like Elon is this guy who's making all the decisions. There is a team at Tesla, and Investor Day showed a deep bench, a deep team of great leadership all across the company. That is something that deserved a story and didn't get a story. Tesla has said vehicles in full self-driving crash at a rate at least 5 times less than vehicles driving normally. Musk and Tesla did not respond to repeated requests from Common. What, like you would give them a fair hearing? You don't give them a fair hearing. You saw what I showed you earlier about his list of constant hit attacks on Tesla. Why would you speak on Elon and Tesla? Why would they want to speak with this guy? This guy's a hit piece journalist. So we'll go on, but the story of full self-driving offers a vivid example of how the world's richest person has complicated one of the biggest bets through rash decision-making, a stubborn insistence on doing things differently, and unyielding confidence in a vision that is yet to be proven. Yeah, okay, so he makes aggressive decisions. You can call it rash, you can call it aggressive. He does have an insistence on doing things differently because doing things the same as other people doesn't lead to meaningful change, you dumbass. Okay, and unyielding confidence in a vision that is yet to be proven. You know, that's why SpaceX is dominating the launch industry, for exactly these things. These are exactly the reasons why SpaceX is dominating the launch industry. Where is his recognition of SpaceX has landed boosters over 100 times, no one else has even tried. 7 years. Hey, SpaceX has been landing boosters for 7 years because of aggressive or rash decision making, an insistence on doing things differently, and confidence in a vision yet to be proven. 100%. Great description. He's writing that like it's a negative, it's a positive. And he hasn't complicated one of his biggest bets. This is the big bet, and he's pursuing that big bet. Why is it complicated? No one believed me that working for Elon was the way it was until they saw how he operated Twitter, Bernal said, calling Twitter just the tip of the iceberg on how he operates Tesla. How is this guy Bernal, a fired test driver, somehow an expert on how Tesla operates? He's not inside the engineering teams. He's not inside the factories. He's driving a car and he's got a beef. How does this guy get this level of credibility in the Washington Post? It's absolutely absurd. Now, he looks back to Investor Day, and Musk made perhaps his boldest prediction. By the middle of next year, we'll have over 1 million cars on the road, 1 million Teslas on the road with full self-driving hardware. This is true. This was a true statement that Tesla now has 3 or 4 million cars on the road with full self-driving hardware. The software updates automatically over the air, and full self-driving will be so reliable, he said the driver could go to sleep. Yes, look, we know it's true that Elon has made bold predictions about when full self-driving will be real. But the fact that they have full self-driving hardware is true. All the cars with FSD version 3 are very likely. Like, I can't say with certainty. There are people who say it won't be there in this hardware. I believe, Andrei Karpathy believes, Ashok Elaswamy believes, Zach Kirkhorn believes, the Tesla team believes, not just Elon, that hardware 3 will be sufficient to allow the cars to drive themselves. And there's a whole bunch of reasons for it, and this guy doesn't understand it. You know, did he go through Investor Day and watch the whole presentation and try to understand it? Did he go through AI Day 1 and AI Day 2 and try to understand them? No indication that Siddiqui made that effort. Investors were sold the following year. Tesla stock price soared. Tesla stock price did not soar because of FSD or Autonomy Day. They do an event like that and the stock goes down. Investors were not sold on that. Investors were sold on the fact that Tesla was growing fast, and Tesla is growing fast. The stock price is not based on FSD. This is an absolute utter lie. Anybody who follows Tesla knows that Wall Street is not valuing Tesla based on FSD. People like me are saying, I think the long-term valuation of Tesla should be much higher than it is today because of the value of FSD. But the market is not being driven by FSD. It was never driven by FSD. This is an absolute out-and-out lie or utter stupidity on the part of Siddiqui. Full self-driving followed autopilot. Full self-driving aimed to bring these capabilities to city and residential streets, a far more difficult task. I drive FSD beta. It drives on city and residential streets. And not only that, before I had beta, whatever I had before, the non-beta version of FSD that I had was driving on city and residential streets. And yes, it's a far more difficult task. The cars rely on this is true. To deliver on his promise, Musk assembled a star team of engineers willing to work long hours and problem solve deep into the night. How is this bad? Musk would test the latest software on his own car, and then he and others would compile fix-it requests for their engineers. There's a team internal to Tesla that drives alpha versions of the software. Musk isn't the only one. And then there are then they roll out a beta version that's released only to employees. There's a process that they follow. When they come up with a new version, they release it to employees only, to test operators only. I have a friend who's one of Tesla's test operators. The test operators are driving different versions on the early alpha versions to see whether it's good enough and which ones, and they're constantly testing to see if they can get things work before they roll it out to a small group of outsiders, the original 1000 FSD beta testers. I sometimes get those updates on my Model 3, and then they gradually roll it out to more people after they've resolved whatever the issues are. This is how software works. This is how you upgrade. This is how you update software. What does this guy not get? Those patchwork fixes gave the illusion of relentless progress, but masked the lack of a coherent development strategy, former employees said. No, there is a coherent development strategy, and it's not just from Elon. It's from Karpathy, it's from Elaswamy, it's from it's the Tesla team. The coherent development strategy is more cars generate more data, and more computing power is able to train artificial intelligence models, the training models faster and better and larger models. There is absolutely a coherent development strategy. The fact that this guy hasn't bothered to watch Autonomy Day, hasn't bothered to watch AI Day, hasn't bothered to watch AID 2, hasn't bothered to watch a James Douma interview with Dave Lee or with me or whoever. This guy just hasn't bothered to learn. But there is very clearly a coherent development strategy. Who are these former employees? There's absolutely a coherent, it's really clear. More data, more compute. We've got more data be generated by more cars. We've got more compute with the NVIDIA cluster, Dojo being developed to add more compute. We got hardware 4 coming, which is going to have a better chip inside the car and better cameras inside the car. This is while competitors such as Alphabet-owned Waymo adopted strict testing protocols that limited where self-driving software could operate, Tesla eventually pushed FSD out to 360,000 owners and let them activate it at their own discretion. Not completely true, mostly true, because if you don't drive the car properly, you'll get warnings, and eventually you may have FSD beta taken away. It's not completely at your own discretion. If you don't do it properly, you can lose FSD beta, just to be clear. And you might get it back at some point later. But, Waymo adopting these strict protocols and limiting where the self-driving software can operate and having a very small number of cars means you're generating less data. This is the point of the coherent development strategy. Waymo's strategy does not generate enough data to be able to train the car to drive in all circumstances. My car has driven on dirt roads in New Hampshire and dirt roads in Florida. My FSD beta has driven on dirt roads in New Hampshire and dirt roads in Florida. My car is driven in all kinds of circumstances and all kinds of conditions. Lots of other people have driven in all kinds of conditions, snowy roads, rain, everything. And giving it exposure to all those circumstances generates more data, which allows more training so you can get better. And here we go. Tesla's philosophy is simple. The more data, in this case driving, the AI is guiding the car is exposed to, the faster it learns. Yes, okay, so wait a minute. You said there was no coherent development strategy. Now you're saying there is a coherent development strategy. This is a coherent, he actually knows the strategy. Why did you say there's no coherent development strategy when you just said what it is? But this misses half of it, right? This is more data, the faster it learns, but it's more data, more compute. More data, more compute. And you need more compute to be able to process more data, and you need more compute to be able to process larger models. But that crude model also means there's a lighter safety net. What lighter safety net? It's the same safety net. There's a human supervising, and the human makes sure it doesn't crash. That's our job as FSD beta testers. Correct the vehicle when it does something wrong, make sure it doesn't crash. Tesla has chosen to effectively allow the software to learn on its own, yes, developing sensibilities akin to a brain via technology dubbed neural nets with fewer rules, the former employee said. While this has the potential to speed the process, it boils down to essentially a trial and error method. Well, let's get to this. This is how we train human drivers. I have 2 children who drive. How did they learn? They got behind the car and they had to learn we put kids behind the wheel when they're not really good drivers, and they learn to drive on their own with some supervision from a parent, and then at a certain point they get a driver's license and they're driving on their own, and they're no longer in beta. Right? When they have a learner's permit, they're in beta. When they're driving on their own, they're no longer in beta, but they're still learning. They're learning by trial and error. This is how humans learn. This is how the car is learning. But unlike 17-year-olds, unlike human drivers, the supervising driver controls the wheel and controls the pedal at any moment and can take over. And that's what makes it safer than letting 15 and 16-year-olds drive cars. We have supervision in the car at all times, and if you're not supervising, you lose the right to operate FSD beta. So you can call that whatever you want to call it. So rivals at Waymo and Apple take a different approach to autonomy. Yes, setting rules, addressing breaches of constraints are violated. Companies developing self-driving also use sophisticated LiDAR and radar systems. They're using sophisticated LiDAR and radar. They're not using unsophisticated LiDAR and radar, which help the software map out their surroundings in detail. Tesla's using sophisticated camera systems and sophisticated neural nets. Amazingly sophisticated neural nets. If you didn't watch AI Day 1 and AI Day 2, you should watch those. They are developing incredibly sophisticated systems to help the software map out their surroundings in incredible detail, better detail than these other companies are using. And they're generating a lot more data, and they've got more compute. Waymo spokesperson said there are evident differences between the company's approaches, pointing to Waymo's goal of full autonomy and emphasis on machine learning. Apple declined to comment for this story. Apple doesn't even have a self-driving car. Tesla is using machine learning. Tesla has the goal of full autonomy. Where's the difference? How is this? Where's the criticism? Where's the question? Hey, Ms. Alina, Ms. Waymo spokesperson, that doesn't sound different from what Tesla's doing. Tesla's goal is full autonomy, and Tesla's emphasized machine learning. Where's the difference? Tesla's method has at times proven problematic. Around 2 years ago, a popular YouTuber captured footage of the software struggling to navigate San Francisco's famously winding Lombard Street in a video that garnered tens of thousands of views. Oh my God. So Tesla's engineers built invisible barriers into the software to help the cars stay on the road. Subsequent YouTube videos showed them operating smoothly. No, this is total BS. Tesla's software got better, and it got better at driving more difficult road situations. The idea that they built invisible barriers into the software, what does that mean? The whole design of the car is to identify what's drivable space, and what's not drivable space is a barrier, and the car's not supposed to drive in space that's not drivable. What's the big deal? That gave Bernal pause. Yeah, Bernal, this expert. As an internal tester who drove that stretch of road as part of his job, it was clear that it was far from the typical experience on public streets elsewhere. Humans have trouble driving on Lombard Street. Lombard Street is this very steep, very tight, curvy road. It's very hard to drive, and Tesla's FSD beta drives it well now. So where's the problem here? This is just nonsense. And that's an old story. The Lombard Street thing was like more than a year ago. Radar originally played a major role in the design. Tesla also used ultrasonic sensors. Okay, you finally mentioned they're eliminating those. Even with radar, Teslas were less sophisticated than LiDAR and radar-equipped cars of competitors. How do you define sophistication? How do you define sophistication? One of the key advantages of LiDAR is that we'll never fail to see a train or truck, even if it doesn't know what it is, said Brad Templeton, a longtime self-driving car developer and consultant who worked on Google's self-driving car. It knows there's an object in front, and the vehicle can stop without knowing more than that. The cameras are identifying objects. Did you watch AI Day? Have you seen the occupancy detection network? Are you aware they've got multiple cameras looking? And there's so many potential problems with LiDAR. And you have this challenge of like LiDAR, George Hotz of Comma.ai says LiDAR is a crutch. LiDAR doesn't really solve the problem. You need vision to solve this problem. LiDAR is expensive. LiDAR is unreliable. There's all kinds of potential problems with LiDAR. There's no indication that LiDAR is worthwhile. And the companies that are using LiDAR they're not driving show me a Waymo that will drive on Lombard Street. Show me a Waymo that will drive on a dirt road in New Hampshire. These other companies are not anywhere near as accomplished as Tesla. But this idea, Less sophisticated. What does that mean? Watch Autonomy Day, AI Day, and AI Day 2 and tell me that's less sophisticated. It's incredibly sophisticated. We don't, and by the way, the other companies don't show us. They don't provide the same presentations that Tesla provides. We don't know how sophisticated their system is. You've got LiDAR, you've got radar. That doesn't make you more sophisticated. That just means you've thrown extra hardware at the problem. It doesn't make it better. Cameras need to understand what they see to be effective, relying on Tesla workers who label the images the vehicles record, including things like stop signs and trains, to help the software understand how we act. Toward the end of 2020, Autopilot employees turned on their computers to find in-house workplace monitoring software. Wait a minute. So first of all, let's go back here. Tesla has implemented auto labeling. So the cars are labeling themselves. The software is doing the labeling itself. It's not just that workers are labeling. They've increased the ability of the software, the training computers at the home office, to label images on their own. They're doing all kinds of things to improve labeling. They're doing labeling in 3D video instead of 2D still images. There's a tremendous amount of progress here that this guy either doesn't understand or doesn't want us to understand. That they turned on their computers to find in-house workplace monitoring software installed. Do other companies do that? It monitored keystrokes and mouse clicks and kept track of their image labeling. The mouse did not move for a period of time. Employees could be reprimanded up to being fired for periods of inactivity, the former employee said. I know a company that there's been accusations that this other company has monitored employees inappropriately, pushed employees inappropriately. Amazon. There's all kinds of talk about Amazon treats its warehouse workers. Has the Washington Post covered and I don't think that Amazon's doing anything wrong, just to be clear, but has the Washington Post covered how Amazon employees are being treated by Amazon? I'm not sure. Employees can be reprimanded up to being fired for periods of inactivity. Why is that bad? Don't you think employees should be active? Don't you think employees should be working while they're at work? Like, what is this? What kind of nonsense is this? All of a sudden, we turn to a group pushing to unionize Tesla's Buffalo factory. What on earth? Raised concerns about workplace monitoring. Tesla responded to blog post. The reason there is time monitoring for image labeling is to improve the ease of use of our labeling software. What does this have to do with that? Its purpose is to calculate how long it takes to label an image. There's a reason why they're doing it. So what's the big deal? Musk had championed the vision-only approach is simpler, cheaper, and more intuitive. The road system is designed for cameras, eyes, and neural net brains, yes. Some of the people who spoke with the Post said that approach has introduced risks. Everything has risks. Former Tesla Autopilot engineer. I just knew that putting that software out in the streets would not be safe. But the cars are safer than not having the software in the cars. You can't predict what the car is going to do. You can't predict what a human driver is going to do. Look, first of all, I can often predict when my car is going to make a mistake. I can generally predict what my car is going to do, and there are situations where I anticipate it's going to make a mistake. I have driven the car enough, and this is the thing, if you are an FSD beta tester and you've driven enough, you get used to some of the mistakes it makes, and then you're pleasantly surprised when they update the software and it doesn't make that particular mistake anymore. It's wonderful. It's a great thing. We're very excited about that. A rise in vehicle crashes. After Tesla announced it was moving radar, the problems were almost immediately noticeable. It's coincided with expansion. Suddenly, cars were allegedly stopping for imaginary hazards, misinterpreting street signs, and failing to detect obstacles such as emergency vehicles, according to complaints filed. What does radar have to do with that? What would radar have to do with understanding? Does radar understand street signs? Does radar understand obstacles such as emergency vehicles? No. Radar detects the Doppler effect, whether something's approaching you quickly or moving away from you. Radar doesn't detect objects itself. Radar doesn't read a street sign. This is total nonsense. This is absolutely stupid. Some of the people who spoke with the Post attributed Tesla's sudden uptick in phantom braking reports. I did not experience an uptick in phantom braking. I think phantom braking got better when they removed radar, where the cars aggressively slow down from high speeds to the lack of radar. The Post analyzed data to show incidences surged last year. I have no idea what data they have. I can't say. All I can say is in my experience, phantom braking is much, much less than it used to be. And I believe that that removing the radar has made it much, much better at that particular issue. Phantom braking is when the car slows down and there's no obvious reason for the car to slow down. My car slows down right now because there's a pedestrian near the road, and I guess the car thinks that pedestrian might step in the car's path when it's obvious to me that the pedestrian won't step in the car's path. And I think that's something that improves over time. That's something that they're constantly working on. I've seen in the release notes for FSD beta, different versions that they're working on vulnerable road users, pedestrians, bicycles, etc. It works on that. They're constantly tuning that and improving that. The data showed reports of phantom braking rose to 107 complaints over 3 months compared to only 34 in the preceding 22 months. Where are these complaints from? Who are they being reported to? Does this take into account the fact that FSD beta went from 1,000 users to 400,000 users? Like, how many users were there in that 3-month period versus how many users were there in the preceding 22 months? After the Post highlighted the problem in a news report, they received about 250 complaints of the issue in a 2-week period. Yeah, well, if the press reports something, then people are going to notice it more. The agency opened an investigation after it said it received 354 complaints of the problem spanning a period of 9 months. Okay, we've got 400,000 people driving this software, so less than 1 in 1,000 people have complained about this problem? I don't know. Months earlier, they opened an investigation into Autopilot over roughly a dozen reports of. So this is just rehashing old stuff now, right? Investigation over Autopilot crashing into parked emergency vehicles. Latest example came to light this month, investigating a fatal crash involving Tesla and a fire truck. Experts say radar has served as a way to double check with the cameras, which are susceptible to being washed out by bright light or saying radar detects whether something's approaching you or moving away from you. It doesn't identify objects. Radar is not going to identify an emergency vehicle. This is an absolute misunderstanding. It's either a deliberate or unintentional misunderstanding that radar does not detect emergency vehicles. The radar does not say that's an emergency. It detects an object getting closer and moving further away. That's what. If an object is moving the same speed as you, then it may not. Radar may not show it up. They're working on the Doppler effect. Regardless of whether I'm right or wrong about that, the radar does not see emergency vehicle. It doesn't detect flashing lights on a vehicle. It doesn't see fire truck or police on a vehicle. That's not what radar does. And then, of course, we've got Missy Cummings, a former senior safe. Missy Cummings is the one who tweeted that she wanted to punch Elon Musk, a completely unbiased observer. The radar helped detect objects in the forward field. For computer vision, which is rife with errors, it serves as a sensor fusion way to check if there's a problem. Well, Missy Cummings apparently doesn't understand how Tesla's self-driving works. Andre Karpathy gets it. Ashok Elaswamy gets it. The team gets it. Computer vision is rife with errors. Is computer vision more error-prone than human vision? I mean, there's an interesting question. Do you think computer vision is more prone to errors than human vision? Because I drive without radar when I drive a car myself. You drive without radar when you drive a car yourself. Somehow you manage to drive without radar. Sensor fusion helps if the radar wasn't such a high, super noisy signal, but the radar was a super noisy signal and it did not help. Musk, as the chief tester, is he the chief tester? Also asked for frequent bug fixes to the software, requiring engineers to go in and adjust the code. Nobody comes up with a good idea while being chased by a tiger, a former senior executive recalled an engineer on the project telling him. No. First of all, we get the complaints that Elon's spending too much time at Twitter. Now Elon's spending too much time telling people how to manage the code. Would you guys make up your mind? Make up your mind. Is Elon spending too much time at Tesla, or is he spending not enough time at Tesla? Would you guys come up with a plan here? This is total nonsense. Musk's resistance to suggestions led to a culture of deference. Tesla fired employees who pushed back on his approach. The company, former employees said, this is anonymous sources. Look, Tesla fired people who didn't do a good job. Tesla fired people who weren't on board with the plan. That's if the boss says this is how we're going to do things, and somebody says no, I don't want to do it that way, then you're fired. This is the way we're going to do it. The company also is pushing so many updates to its software that in late 2021, NHTSA publicly admonished Tesla for issuing fixes without a formal recall notice. This is just total BS. Who cares? Honestly, NHTSA publicly admonished. What does that mean? I don't even remember this one. It's bad that they're updating the software frequently. This is so ridiculous. Last year, Musk decided to buy Twitter, something that became a distraction for the chief executive. Wait a minute, was he distracted by Twitter, or was he spending too much time telling people how to fix the software? Make up your mind. After taking the helm, he diverted dozens of engineers, including on Autopilot and Full Self-Driving, to work with him, for further setting back Tesla, according to former employees and we've covered this already. This is something that is routine in Elon's company, is that employees can switch over and work from one company to the other. Tesla has a lot of Autopilot team in Palo Alto, which is close to San Francisco. If somebody wanted to work on it, they were free to do so. They probably got paid extra to do so. This is like a problem with that. This is not really a problem. This is just imaginary. Software updates that were otherwise issued every 2 weeks were suddenly spaced out over periods of months as Tesla worked through bugs. So wait a minute. First, they're pushing too many updates to the software. Now they're not issuing enough. Make up your mind, Siddiqui. What do you want? Do you want them to issue more frequent updates or less frequent updates? What approach is adequate for you? Like anything they do, here's the deal for Faiz Siddiqui and the Washington Post and Jeff Bezos. Anything Elon does has to be wrong. If he does A, it's wrong. If he does B, it's wrong. If he does A, it's wrong. If he does not A, it's wrong. Whatever Elon does is wrong. Write every article that way. That is Jeff Bezos' instructions to Siddiqui. This makes no sense. It's so obvious. Right here, they're pushing out too many updates. Now they're not pushing out enough. God. Some lament Musk's involvement at Twitter, saying he needs to refocus on Tesla to finish what he started. Ross Gerber. Okay, so here's where we get into the outsiders, the people in the Tesla community who are they. When you speak to the media, they will use what you say against Elon. Ross Gerber, Tesla investor, who's running for a seat on the company's board. By the time this article was published, Ross was no longer running for the board. I have no idea why this guy said this. Ross stopped running for the board a while ago. We love Elon. He's the innovator of our time. All we want is to see him working full-time back at Tesla again. You want him at full-time at Tesla, supervising employees, telling him what to do, or you want him not there. Make up your mind what you want, Siddiqui. Tesla engineers have been burning out, quitting, and looking for opportunities elsewhere. Karpathy took a months-long sabbatical last year before leaving Tesla and taking a position this year at OpenAI. Since Andre was writing all the code by himself, naturally things would come to a grinding halt, Musk said on an earnings call. He was speaking in Karpathy answered this.
I think over time, during those 5 years, I've kind of gotten myself into a little bit of a managerial position. Most of my days were, meetings and growing the organization and making decisions about sort of high-level strategic decisions about the team and what it should be working on and so on. And it's kind of like a corporate executive role, and I can do it. I think I'm okay at it, but it's not like fundamentally what I enjoy. I kind of like grew that into what I think is a fairly respectable deep learning team, a massive compute cluster, a very good data annotation organization. And I was very happy with where that was. It became quite autonomous. And so I kind of stepped away, and I'm very excited to do much more technical things again. Yeah. And kind of like refocus on AGI.
His work, because if you watched his interview with Lex Friedman, you would know this. Number one, Karpathy said that Tesla is on the correct path with FSD. He thinks it's a solved or solvable problem, and they're going to get there soon. But Karpathy said he was tired of leading a team. He wanted to get into working on the code himself. He wanted to get him working on code, getting back to working on code himself. And he didn't leave and then take a position immediately at OpenAI. He took a sabbatical, he came back, and then he left Tesla, and then he was figuring out what to do, and then he took a position at OpenAI. So what? Elaswamy has taken on work at Musk's other company, Twitter, according. So what? So Ashok helped out with that as well. What's the big deal here? One of the former employees said that he left for Waymo. They weren't really wondering if their car is going to run the stop sign, the engineer said. They're just focusing on making the whole thing achievable in the long term as opposed to hurrying it up. Do you want to invest in a company that's hurrying up, or do you want a company that's taking their time? Look, Blue Origin is not hurrying, right? And they haven't launched a rocket to orbit yet. SpaceX has been hurrying. Elon's companies hurry and they deliver results, like launching roughly 80% of the world's payload by mass to orbit this year. SpaceX is launching launch after launch after launch, launching large payloads into orbit, doing amazing things because they hurry. They turn the impossible into late. That's a t-shirt at elonbits.com, by the way.
At SpaceX, we specialize in converting things from impossible to late.
The Justice Department has requested documents related to full self-driving as part of an ongoing probe, and the SEC is looking into Musk's role in pushing self-driving claims. Blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Like, is the Justice Department investing anything at General Motors or Ford or Rivian or Lucid Motors? What about the SEC looking into Lucid Motors? The lawsuit filed in February alleges that Tesla made false and misleading statements, arguing Tesla significantly overstated the safety and performance of autopilot and full self-driving. Okay, a lawsuit was filed. That doesn't mean it's true. People make complaints about all sorts of things. That doesn't mean it's true. And notice, he has said in this entire article, has he said anything positive? Has he mentioned that FSD beta is way better than it was when it first came out? Has he addressed whether it is actually safer than before? Has he addressed whether Tesla cars, has he looked at NHTSA numbers and traffic safety numbers to see whether Tesla cars are safer? Has he mentioned the crash safety in Teslas? None of that. This is in addition to NHTSA's 2 probes into autopilot, one of which is to look at emergency vehicles. That investigation has been upgraded to a more advanced stage in engineering analysis. The other independent breaking boards are going, yeah. At an investor showcase this month, Musk appeared alongside more than a dozen Tesla employees on stage, touting the company's broad array of expertise. But the company failed to offer any major developments on full self-driving despite a segment on the technology. Well, it was Investor Day and they were covering a whole bunch of stuff. And yes, I agree. The FSD section was basically a rehash of part of AI Day 2. They didn't have anything new to add. They just did AI Day 2. It was really a focus on manufacturing was the biggest point of the presentation. And how about talking about all the great stuff that happened in Investor Day? How about talking about reducing reliance on rare earth elements and silicon carbide? How about talking about on the unbox process? Where's the good side of this event? And some of Musk's most loyal customers have given up hope that his initial promise will come true. Charles Cook, this is the famous Chuck Cook's left turn, Charles Cook, a commercial pilot and engineer from Jacksonville, owns a Model Y that he frequently drives in full self-driving mode. And this is where, I'm just going to say this, I love Chuck. I think this is not the first time I've seen this. Somebody who's a fan, a big supporter, who gets caught up in an interview with somebody like the Washington Post and doesn't realize their words are going to get twisted. Chuck has been talking about FSD version 11 and how much better it is since he got version 11, but you get this statement. While he's amazed at what the technology can do, he's surprised by both the slow pace of progress and the status of Musk's promises. I don't think Chuck is surprised by the slow pace of progress. I don't think that's an accurate statement. It's not a quote, and I don't think that's an accurate statement. Someone might have purchased FSD thinking they were going to have a robo-taxi by now and spent their hard-earned money on that, he said. Now, his engineers may have laughed at that, but a customer may have spent $15,000 thinking they're going to have it next year. Those customers, he said, lost out. Well, $15,000, it's only been $15,000. I don't even know if it's been $15,000 for a year yet. I'm not sure when it went to $15,000. I'm not sure it's been a year yet. And he says, I do not believe you can remove the driver on this hardware suite ever, he said. Now, has Chuck changed his tune since version 11 came along? Is Chuck qualified to form that opinion? What about the fact that Andrej Karpathy says it's good enough? What about the fact that Swamy says it's good enough? You know, this is the other thing, but this is the thing. If you're going to be interviewed, if you are an FSD beta tester, if you're a Tesla fan and you're going to be interviewed by somebody from the New York Times or the Washington Post or the mainstream media, understand they're going to twist your words. And the technique for handling this is be consistently positive. They ask you a question, you say, well, maybe there's some issues there, but I'm seeing tremendous progress. If you're constantly upbeat, if you're not, whatever you say is going to be used against you and used against Elon and used against Tesla, and it's going to make you look bad. I'll leave it open to Chuck. Are you happy with the way you were quoted? Do you feel like your views on Tesla's FSD are adequately represented based on your cooperation with the Washington Post? My guess, I know Chuck. I think Chuck's a great guy. My guess, Chuck is probably not that thrilled with how this came out. I mean, they closed an article, a hit piece on Elon Musk, with Chuck Cook saying this hardware isn't going to do it. Is that what you wanted, Chuck? Did you want to be the voice that closed an article, a hit piece on Elon and Tesla? I don't know. The Washington Post, Jeff Bezos' rag, attacking Elon, persistently attacking Elon, no intellectual honesty whatsoever. This author never has anything positive to say about Tesla. Fails to acknowledge that FSD is much, much better than it was in the past. This is a disgrace, and Jeff Bezos should be ashamed of himself. Please check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com. Please support me on the Locals platform on Patreon or as a YouTube channel member. Links to all that in the description below. Please check out my other videos. Please like this video, share, and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching.